Now this was a work of art, I'm telling you. It was like the third take on this. My think about it for today is, as you may have noticed, my think about it's are basically rants. My think about it today is a two-parter. First thing, I don't think old people should be given respect just on the principle that they're old. They shouldn't be revered or respected just because they're old. Another thing, I don't think we should take their words as wisdom. Let me explain this. Let's say a 70-year-old person, today, it's 2021, that person was born in 1951, before the Civil Rights Act passed, segregation was in full throttle, all over the United States. It was, in effect, I think it was harsher down south than in north, but there was definitely segregation. There still is definitely segregation now. There's classism, racism. So, being raised in that era gives one a view of different races other than white than what is supposed to be. What is true is not what they were raised on. So they have that, no matter how much they fought against it, it is a preset to them. For example, I'll use an example. I was raised to believe in Santa. Eventually I quit believing in Santa. But then when I had kids, I taught them to believe in Santa. Now I look back and think that was not a good thing to do. I shouldn't have played the Santa thing with them. That was lying to them. That was dishonest. But it was set in my mind that that was the thing that we were supposed to do with kids. It was right. People who taught, at least when I was a kid, or when I was an older kid who didn't believe in Santa anymore. Or even as a young adult, people would deride people who taught their kid that Santa wasn't real. Now there's a lot more people teaching their kids that Santa isn't real, or just not teaching the kids about Santa. And if the kid asks, they'll either, they'll do something else. They won't tell them that Santa is real. They'll do something else. Either tell them that he's false, or ask them what they believe, or something else. Wordplay, something. Now, the younger generation is going to be a better generation just in that alone. But the younger generation is going to be better than my generation in other areas, including race relations, sex relation, biology relations. They're going to be better in the gender sphere. We didn't know. When I was raised, I don't think anybody knew there was a difference. At least a layperson knew that there was a difference between biological sex and gender. But this new generation, they know. And whether they agree with it or not, they know that there is at least a debate about it. They're much better than my generation. I don't expect the generation coming up now to respect me because I'm with a different mindset. Now, I have brain damage, so a lot of this stuff just didn't take. Like a lot of the racism stuff didn't take. I didn't realize it as, if somebody said something overtly racist, I didn't realize that as, oh, that person's racist. I thought that person's having a bad day. And that might be true, but they're taking it out in a racist way and the effect is still the same. So, I'll turn on this other light there. So, when I met my first husband, before he was my husband, it wasn't an arranged marriage, I saw he had dark brown skin. I found that attractive. I didn't think anything off-putting of it. I didn't think anything wrong with it. I thought, even though our church growing up had taught that, the races shouldn't intermingle. I knew that race back in the biblical days when that was forbidden, or at least looked down on. I thought, well, it's different today. It means two totally different things, so you can't even really equate it. I didn't think my mother even believed in that stuff, because there was a lot of stuff that the church taught that I know my mother didn't believe in. Like, she didn't believe that women shouldn't be in the workforce. She didn't believe that women shouldn't wear trousers. She didn't believe that we shouldn't own a television. She didn't believe that we shouldn't be listening to, country music, or, we shouldn't be able to listen to anything other than Christian music, or watch Christian movies, or watch anything other than Christian. She didn't believe in any of that stuff. And I know our pastor didn't. Like, our pastor would rail against TV and music and blah, blah, blah. And I remember one time going to his house, and this was before, LED. This was, I think it was late 80s, maybe. We went to his house, and he had a big screen television back when nobody had them. Flat screen. Only the super rich had the flat screens. And his son was watching this big screen, flat screen TV. He was watching Child's Play too. Now, we were taught that we should definitely not be watching horror flicks. And here his son is watching a TV forbidden, watching horror flicks forbidden. So even the pastor didn't believe what he was teaching us. So I thought this race thing was something, maybe the pastor did believe it, but I didn't think my mother did. Even though she didn't overtly tell us that she disagreed with us, we owned a television, our pastor. And when our pastor would come over, I remember when we were real young, she would have us wheel, it was on a cart with wheels, and she would have us wheel the TV into the back room in the bedroom and shut the door, not allow anybody in there so they wouldn't see the television, if anybody from church was coming over. So, anyway, so now it surprisingly, she did not believe in the mixing of the races as we see it today. Now, race, maybe I'll explain that in a different video, how it's different now than it was then, back in biblical days. So anyways, I don't want any kid to think what I say is accurate, because I was raised in a time, though some of the wackadoo stuff didn't take, some of it did. And even though I'm better now, there's still some stuff that I'm probably stuck on that is not correct, or that's not how it should be. So anyways, I don't expect anybody younger than me, no matter how young, to give me respect just because I'm old. I don't expect them to take my, some things, yes, I can say I've been there. I can help you out a little bit. Like if it's like going for a mortgage or applying for a driver's license or registering to vote. But when it comes to ideology and stuff, that stuff is off the table. We were at such a backwards time. I was in a generation of selfishness and greed, and I was taught that capitalism was a great thing, communism and socialism were horrible things, and they were anti-God, and all this absolute, what we now know is nonsense, false. Or the educated among us know it's nonsense and false. So we would just buy and use out and then throw it away and go buy more. We wouldn't fix things. We wouldn't recycle. The only time we recycled was if it gave us money. We didn't care about the planet. We didn't care about global warming. I didn't even know about global warming until I was in my maybe mid to late 30s, and that's because as being raised Baptist like I was, it was God was in control. God will take care of it. We're annihilating the earth and all the animals, everything that inhabits it, and the ozone layer. And I didn't know this because this wasn't taught in our church. And now looking back, knowing what I know now, it's because that's the Baptist way. That's the fundamentalist way. That's hippie stuff, that's communist stuff, that's socialist stuff, which is ungodly, sinful, stepping stone to hell. And so, yeah, so I am not up to date on all that stuff. I don't, and so this is why I'm saying I don't think that we should revere people. We should have to respect people simply because they're old. We should respect them as human beings, but that should be no more respect than anybody else of the same age or diminutive age as the person who is giving the respect. And my ideology, or even my thoughts on something. I mean, like, I was raised, when I was coming up, only wealthy people had credit cards. Well, then I guess in the late 80s, the laws changed about it, and then now everybody has a credit card. And if they don't have a credit card, they have a debit card with credit, with MasterCard, Visa logo on it. So, you know, it's much different. So even then, you know, if I'm saying, oh, I can tell you how to pull a mortgage. You know how many times the laws have changed about mortgage since I first pulled my mortgage, my first mortgage? Laws are completely different. You know, we had this housing bubble and this, you know, and the mortgage scam and all these CEOs doing dishonest stuff, and the laws have changed. So even that, I can't tell you. Like, driving laws have changed. Now they have the graded or graduated auto licensing, auto permit licensing for the state licensing. Whereas before, I mean, you were on your permit for a little while, as long as you were a certain age in this area, you know, you lived in this county, it was a certain age, then you could get your permit, then you drove for a while with a licensed person, then you took your, you know, your exam for your state license, and if you passed, you got your license. Not like that now. They have a graduated system. I don't know what it is. Can't even tell you. I just know it exists. And so I shouldn't listen to about any of that stuff. You know, so yeah, think about it. Nobody deserves respect, just any more respect than anybody else just because they're older. You know, they're an elderly person. Donald Trump, I looked it up, I think he's 75 this year. Dude is a rapist. He's a racist. He's total crap. I'd only give him the base respect of humanity. Absolutely no more respect than absolutely necessary for him not to kill me and me not to kill him. But I will have some stuff to say if I ever meet him, or some words to call him. But anyways, that's my think about it for today. I would like to add that I don't know if I included it in this video, but back in 1951, I'm using the 70-year-old person still as an example. In 1951, segregation existed in all forms. School, I think I did mention this, but not in detail. Schools, restaurants, buses. At least in the South it was buses. I don't know about the North. But the schools in the North, I believe, were segregated still segregated in 1951. Some restaurants wouldn't even serve, some hotels wouldn't even serve people of color back then. So, yeah, if this was where a 7-year-old, why would you even take their ideology, at least concerning race? Oh, and women, oh, women were, you know, they were condemned if they wanted to work outside the house or have a goal, you know, their goal in life was to marry and have children and keep a home. That ideology was still prevalent in 1951. Okay, that was being pounded into the head of women, and men capitalized on this, and just domestic abuse laws were not in place back then. That wasn't until the 80s. Yeah, so you could beat your wife, you could rape your wife with impunity. So yeah, that is that's the type of person that was raised in that atmosphere. That is the type of person you're supposed to take information from. No. Okay. So I will talk to you later.